The water beneath the lifeboat isn't just moving. It's boiling, not from heat, but from power. Somewhere below the surface, the ship's propellers are still spinning. Massive blades, taller than a man, carving the sea into a violent pull. And the current is dragging the lifeboat straight toward them. Passengers begin to scream as the boat shifts sideways. Not drifting, sliding, like something invisible has grabbed it. Ropes snap tight. Wood creaks under pressure. Hands grip the edges of the boat hard enough to turn knuckles white. Someone shouts for the engines to stop, but they're still running. And that means the propellers are still turning. The pull grows stronger. The lifeboat tilts as the force underneath drags it closer to the stern. If it reaches those blades, it won't break. It will be torn apart. Inside that boat stands a 29-year-old stewardess, Violet Jessop. She looks down into the swirling water and understands something the others don't yet. The boat is already lost. Staying means certain death. Jumping might mean being dragged under the ship itself. She has seconds. The current jerks the lifeboat harder toward the massive vessel behind them. And then, she moves. Violet climbs over the edge and jumps. The sea hits her like concrete. Salt water floods her mouth and lungs. Sound disappears into a violent underwater roar. For a moment, there is no direction. No up, no down. Then something strikes her head. Hard. A flash of white. The current releases. She bursts back to the surface, gasping. Behind her, the lifeboat is pulled away. Then it disappears. Wood shatters, people vanish. Debris erupts across the water. Violet floats there, stunned, bleeding, barely conscious, but alive. The year is 1916. The ship behind her is the HMHS Britannic, and it's sinking. But here's what makes this moment impossible. This is not the first time Violet Jessop has survived a disaster at sea. Not the second. This is the third. She had already been on the RMS Olympic during its collision in 1911. She had also survived the Titanic in 1912. And now, 4 years later, the final sister ship is going down beneath her. 3 ships, 3 disasters, 1 survivor. History would later give her a name that sounds almost unreal: the Unsinkable Woman. But the ocean doesn't care about names, and the chain of events that brought her here started long before she ever stepped into that lifeboat. At the beginning of the 20th century, a shipping company set out to build something the world had never seen before. 3 nearly identical giants: Olympic, Titanic, Britannic. Massive steel liners designed to dominate the Atlantic, longer than city blocks, divided into watertight compartments, engineered with one promise: safety. On paper, they were nearly unsinkable. But the ocean doesn't read blueprints. The first warning came in 1911. The RMS Olympic was leaving Southampton when it passed too close to a British warship, the HMS Hawke. The size of the Olympic created a powerful suction effect in the water. Invisible, unavoidable. The smaller warship was pulled directly into its side. Steel tore open, 2 ships damaged in seconds. And standing on board that day, Violet Jessop. She survived. Most people would have walked away from the sea after something like that. She didn't. A year later, she accepted another position. This time on a ship the world believed could never sink: the Titanic. April 14, 1912. Cold North Atlantic waters. Ice warnings ignored. The ship moving fast through darkness. At 11:40 p.m., the iceberg struck. Steel plates buckled, compartments filled. And the largest passenger ship in the world began to die slowly. Violet was ordered into a lifeboat. She survived again. 2 disasters. 2 sister ships, and still she returned to sea. Then came World War I. The third sister ship, Britannic, was converted into a hospital ship, carrying wounded soldiers across the Mediterranean. On November 21, 1916, it sailed through the Aegean Sea. Calm weather, clear water, nothing to suggest danger. Then, an explosion. A naval mine tore open the hull. Water rushed in immediately, and the ship began to sink. But the real mistake came seconds later. The engines were still running, which meant the propellers were still turning, and any lifeboat lowered too close to the stern would be dragged directly into them, including the one Violet Jessop was standing in. Because in disasters like this, it's rarely just one mistake. It's a chain, and by the time you realize it, it's already too late. For a fraction of a second, nobody understands the sound. It isn't thunder. It isn't a collision. It's too close, too dense, like the ship itself has been punched from below. Then the floor jumps. Not a vibration. A violent upward strike that throws objects off surfaces and knocks people off balance. The air shifts instantly. Metal hums, pipes groan. The ship isn't shaking. It's reacting. The force travels through the structure like a wave through bone. Every wall, every deck, every beam begins to vibrate in a way that feels wrong, unnatural. Violet Jessop is mid-step when it hits. Her stomach drops. Her balance disappears for a moment. Her brain searches for explanation, but there's no second ship, no visible impact. Only that single heavy force from beneath. Then comes the follow-up, a continuous tremor, subtle at first, then growing stronger, like the ship is trying to shake something off. And beneath everything, a new sound begins. Water. Not gentle, not slow, moving with force, rushing through places that should be sealed. Somewhere below, the hull has been torn open, and the ocean is entering. Fast. A door swings open down the corridor. A cold gust follows. Salt, oil, metal. Then something changes under Violet's feet. The angle. At first, it's barely noticeable. Then her weight shifts forward without effort. The floor isn't level anymore. The ship is tilting. And once that starts, it doesn't stop. Corridors become slopes. Steps become unstable. The environment itself turns against them. Orders begin to echo. Lifeboats, stations, move. But movement on a tilting ship isn't simple. Balance becomes guesswork. Hands reach for support that isn't where it should be. The structure itself begins to feel unreliable. Outside, the contrast is disturbing. The sky is clear. The sea looks calm. But the ship is dying in perfect daylight. Lifeboats begin lowering. Ropes strain. Wood creaks. People crowd inside, pressed shoulder to shoulder. Then, another sound cuts through everything. The engines, still running. Deep inside the ship, the propellers are turning. Massive blades continuing their motion as if nothing has happened. And the water behind the ship begins to change. It darkens. Then it pulls. A slow rotation forming at first. Then, stronger. A circular current building into something dangerous. A whirlpool created by machinery. The first lifeboat touches the water. For a moment, it floats. Then it jerks sideways. Suddenly, violently, the current grabs it. The stern swings. People collapse into each other. The ropes snap tight. And the boat begins moving, not away from the ship, but toward it. Toward the propellers. Violet sees it clearly now. There's no escape once the current takes hold. No strength that can fight it. No control. Only physics. The lifeboat accelerates across the surface, dragged towards something invisible beneath the water. And Violet is next. Her boat is about to be lowered. Seconds. That's all she has. She looks at the water, then at the stern, then back again. And in that moment, survival stops feeling uncertain. It feels impossible, because the only way out is into the sea, and the sea is no longer safe. It's been turned into a machine, and it's pulling everything toward it. The moment Violet hits the water, control disappears, not from waves, but from force. The propellers are still spinning somewhere beneath the surface, pulling thousands of tons of water into motion. The current grabs her instantly. Her body is dragged sideways, then down. Salt water floods her mouth. Her lungs react violently, trying to breathe where there is no air. Panic hits fast, sharp, physical, uncontrollable. For a few seconds, she doesn't belong to herself. She belongs to the current. Then, the pull weakens. The ship is moving away from the center of suction. Her body rises. She breaks the surface with a desperate inhale. Air never felt this violent. The first sensation is pain, a deep, heavy pressure at the back of her skull. When she struck the hull during the pull, something cracked, but adrenaline keeps it distant. Around her, the ocean is filled with debris, broken wood, fragments of lifeboats, loose canvas. The Britannic looms nearby, already tilting deeper into the sea. But survival doesn't care about the size of the ship. It reduces everything to small problems. First, stay afloat. Cold water drains energy fast. Muscles weaken. Coordination fades. So she grabs the nearest floating object, a piece of broken wood, rough, waterlogged. But it floats, and that's enough. She hooks one arm over it, letting it carry part of her weight. Less effort. Less energy burned. Second, control breathing. Shock forces the body to breathe too fast. Too fast means panic. Panic means exhaustion. So she forces a rhythm. Short inhale, slow exhale. Again, again. The ocean tastes like salt and metal. Every breath burns. Then, the biggest danger returns. The ship, Britannic, is sinking faster than expected because its portholes were open. Water is pouring in from multiple points. The bow disappears first. Then the stern begins to rise. The ocean reacts immediately. Water rushes toward the collapsing space beneath the ship. Anything nearby will be dragged down with it. So she moves. Not fast. Fast wastes energy. She moves steadily. Slow kicks. Let the wood carry her. Every movement feels heavy. Her head pulses with each heartbeat. Her limbs don't respond the way they should. But she keeps going. Because stopping means drifting back toward the ship. Behind her, the Britannic makes a sound no structure should ever make. A deep, tearing groan. Then the stern lifts higher. The propellers break the surface, massive, dripping, still turning. For a moment, they spin in the air. Then the ship slides under, gone. The ocean closes, and everything becomes quiet. Too quiet. Only wind, only breathing, only survivors floating in open water. Her body starts shaking uncontrollably. Cold, shock, exhaustion. Her fingers lose feeling. Her jaw tightens. But she stays conscious. She keeps breathing. She keeps floating. Time stretches. Minutes feel longer than they should. Her mind narrows down to simple commands. Stay up. Stay awake. Don't stop. Because the ocean doesn't need violence anymore. It just needs time. And then, a sound. Faint at first, then clearer. An engine. Not the deep one from before. Smaller, closer. She lifts her head, and on the horizon, a shape. A vessel. Rescue. But distance plays tricks. And after everything that has happened, hope feels dangerous. Because if it's not real, there's nothing left after it. At first, the sound feels like a trick. After hours in cold water, the mind begins to distort everything. Shapes blur. Sounds stretch. Hope becomes unreliable. But this time, the engine doesn't fade. It grows. A small vessel cuts through the water, moving slowly across the debris field left behind by the Britannic. Figures appear on deck, looking, searching. Then one of them points. A rope hits the water nearby. For a moment, Violet's body doesn't respond. Her fingers feel numb, stiff, slow. Then instinct takes over. She grabs the rope. Hands pull from above. Her body lifts out of the water, heavy and uncoordinated. Boots scrape against the side of the ship. For a second, she hangs between two worlds, then collapses onto the deck. Water pools beneath her. The world tilts again, not from the ocean, from exhaustion. Her hair is soaked with salt and streaked with blood from the injury at the back of her head. The pain is deeper now, pulsing with every heartbeat. Around her, other survivors are pulled aboard. Some cough violently, some sit in silence, some just stare. No one celebrates. No one speaks much, because survival doesn't feel like victory. It feels like aftermath. The Britannic is gone. Less than an hour after the explosion, the largest hospital ship in the world has disappeared beneath the surface. And somehow, Violet Jessop survives. Again. By now, it should be impossible. 3 sister ships, 3 disasters, 1 person who lived through all of them. Years later, her story would become something people struggled to believe. A woman who survived the Olympic collision, the sinking of the Titanic, and the destruction of the Britannic. History would give her a name that sounds almost unreal: the Unsinkable Woman. But survival isn't magic. It's endurance. Endurance through fear, through pain, through decisions made in seconds that determine everything. Violet returns to the sea after this, not because she believes it's safe, but because survival doesn't erase fear. It teaches you how to carry it. And maybe that's the part most people don't understand. The ocean didn't fail to take her. It tried, 3 times. And each time, she found a way to come back. Not stronger, not fearless, just still alive. Because sometimes survival isn't about beating the impossible. It's about lasting just long enough to tell the story afterward. Before you scroll, think about this. Like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon. Because true survival stories aren't about heroes. They're about people who had no choice but to endure.